Will USCIS start waiving some immigration interviews later in 2020? It is a possibility. Watch this video to hear the 4 most likely options USCIS will use to try to reduce the backlog of immigration interviews, including possibly waiving some immigration interviews. First, a little background. For marriage green card cases, fiancé visa cases, and naturalization cases, there has always been an interview for the applicant near the end of the process. In Northern California, for 16 years, during the Bush and Obama administrations, interviews would occur about 4 months after the case was filed. However, during the Trump administration, these interviews have been regularly delayed by several months to a year or more. USCIS shut their doors and stopped doing immigration interviews on March 18th of this year. USCIS stated they would only offer limited emergency services while the offices were closed. No interviews have been done, and as a result, many immigration cases have not finalized. USCIS has announced that it will reopen its doors and have interviews beginning June 4th. However, this date can be pushed back. However, we expect that USCIS will not open for interviews on June 4th. And if they do start doing them, expect major delays as they will not nearly be up to full speed right away. This is because there will be a backlog of interviews that will need to be processed. The situation will be further worsened by the need for everyone to social distance. There will be safety concerns. USCIS is likely to limit the amount of interviews that are handled in a given day. USCIS will need to make an overall policy decision as to how they wish to handle the postponed and current interviews. It is unlikely that USCIS will hire more immigration officers. You may not realize this, but USCIS depends on most of its funding from user filing fees and not the U.S. taxpayer. Given that the filing fees for most applications have not risen recently, they would not likely have the money to hire a large number of officers to handle the interviews. We believe that USCIS will seriously explore 4 options. The first option would be to simply handle the backlog on a first-come, first-served basis. The interviews that were the first ones to be canceled would be the first ones to be handled, etc. If this option is chosen, you should expect significant delays for cases to close. A second option would be to waive interviews in certain situations. In these situations, USCIS might ask U.S. citizens and beneficiaries to mail in supplemental evidence and then approve the given case by mail. A great type of case for an interview to be waived would be for adjustment of status cases where the foreign spouse entered the United States with a fiancé visa. Our office handled a fiancé visa a few years ago. The clients then hired us to handle the adjustment of status process in order to obtain green cards for the foreign fiancé and her child. We received an interview notice about a year after filing the case. However, when we got to the interview, the USCIS officer informed us that the case had been approved and there was no need for interviews. As immigration interviews are done in fiancé visa cases while the fiancé is abroad, USCIS could decide, like it did in this case, that another interview at the green card stage is unnecessary. A third option would be for USCIS to simply stop doing interviews in employment-based green card cases. Waiving interviews for these cases was standard back before October of 2017. This would free some immigration officers to work on the backlog in family-based green card cases. A fourth option would be for USCIS to handle cases via Zoom or other video method. The Supreme Court is hearing oral arguments via phone. Congress, too, is having some hearings done telephonically. The Federal Bankruptcy Court, for years, has handled certain hearings telephonically. Perhaps USCIS could figure out a way to handle some marriage-based green card cases via some video method. This option would allow USCIS to handle many more interviews than could be done in person in a day. In conclusion, we believe that USCIS may start waiving interviews in some family law green card cases. Cases they may determine based on length of time of marriage, a prior fiancé visa interview, or some other criterion don't need the extra scrutiny of an in-person interview. However, we do not expect this to be the norm. If your case was delayed due to the USCIS shutdown, you will very likely have an interview sometime later this year. If an interview is required in your case, you should expect significant delays. However, you may be fortunate and get to finish your case without an interview. We will have a better idea in the next few months. Stay tuned. If you learned something from this video, please give us a like as it helps with the YouTube algorithm. The law offices of Lawrence Gruner Incorporated has handled immigration cases worldwide for over 25 years. We have 5-star ratings and are located in downtown Sacramento, California. We would be happy to talk to you about your potential immigration case. You may reach us at 888-801-6558 or at attorneygruner@gmail.com.